I'd like to reflect, or have you reflect, on the words of Meg Barnhouse. We gather to worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will truly be seen, that here we will be welcomed into the garden of this community, where the simple and the elegant, the fluted and the frilled, the shy and the dramatic complement one another and are treasured. May we know here each contributes in their way to the beauty of the whole. Just look outside and you can feel that spirit. Those of you on Zoom will remain muted during the service, but you can put comments in the chat box. There will be a coffee time following the service, so stay on to enjoy one another's company and conversation. As I referred to the beauty of the garden, so we are all a part of that lovely garden. And I refer to the blossom here that just sort of is an example of that. As we gather together, we contribute again to the beauty of the garden. For the moments that we are here together, we leave behind maybe the clouds of our lives. Sometimes despair, sometimes depression, sometimes sickness, sometimes struggle. And so we have a chance to be here in this garden together, to reflect, to be inspired, to gain new perspectives. And so you might ask yourself today, what will you receive? And what will be important to you? Our service is centered on the reflection and summary of the four agreements. Again, came to us from the Toltec, an ancient group of people from southern Mexico. They studied, and interesting enough that the four agreements have this foundation, the union of the human being to their inspiration, or what we would call God, or a higher power. Now, the four agreements, lest you forget them, you were also asked to maybe reflect on each as you were presented them. And I'm just reviewing for your edification the four. Number one, be impeccable with your words. I found this quote. Garden seems to be the clue here. The human mind is like a fertile ground, and it'll grow the seed you plant in it. The seed you plant in the garden. Number two, avoid taking things personally. Number three, don't make assumptions. Number four, keep doing your best. You can reflect on that. You'll have more time to think about it. Now, we'd like to light our chalice. And I've asked Lloyd Rogers to light the chalice. And with it, I'll say the following. It comes from the abundance of our lives together. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us.
They really bring it home, don't they? I'd like to share a reading by Richard Bach from The Bridge Across Forever. There are no mistakes. The events we bring upon ourselves, no matter how unpleasant, are necessary in order to learn what we need to learn. Whatever steps we take, they're necessary to reach the places we've chosen to go.
It is now time in our service when we have the opportunity to share our bounty with each other. It is through your generosity and dedication that we here at UUFNN are self-sufficient. But by each of us stepping forward and offering what we can, we provide a support for all that we do for each other and the wider community. As you can see, please share what bounty you can today by texting 73256. That's 73156, typing UUFNN in the message box and hit send. Or you can mail a check to the office or have your bank send one regularly. And if you send the check, it's to 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, Nevada, 89511. Or if you want to simplify the process, you can sign up for automatic giving and contacting Carol at the office for authorization. We also share the plate with a nonprofit organization, and the person or the program that we are sharing it with this month is the Northern Nevada International Center. Now, they serve displaced persons seeking security and safety, and at the moment are looking at the circumstances in Ukraine. Since December 2021, they have helped settle 150 Afghan refugees. Their goal is to make these refugees self-sufficient. It means that your money, your contributions, go to rent, furnishings, household goods, school supplies, etc. So if you would like to share the plate, please indicate that as possible. Now, let the offering begin, and thank you for taking care of our beloved community. Comes forward, please join with me in blessing these offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
This is the time in our service where we take an inner break to consider our needs, our joys, our sufferings, our everything. So for those on Zoom, I invite you to share what's going on for you in the chat box. And those of us here, share with yourself what's going on inside. Just take a moment to reflect on your experiences this week, what they've brought, maybe unbidden. Just take some time with yourself. As we have done since the beginning of the pandemic, we will take this opportunity to seal our shared joys and sorrows with our sign. One hand on the heart, one hand open to the world, to each other, as to say, I see you, I hear you, I love you. Somebody left me a tip. So happy. No applause, just throw money. So I was a difficult child. I used to poop in my father's shoes. I scared the adults in my life. Sometimes I still do. If you know me, you know I have and express strong opinions. I've never been one to keep my thoughts to myself. I love dogs. I hate lists. The Bible has 10 commandments. AA has 12 steps. There are 7 habits of highly effective people, and you can solve 537 hilarious trivia questions and hear the 40 hottest songs on the radio today. A marketing instructor once told me that all presentations should condense their content into 7 steps or less, or fewer, depending on how the language wants me to do it. Editors suggest reducing books and articles to a 6th grade level. It makes everything easier to handle, I guess, but something's always rubbed me the wrong way about that. Like it condescends to the reader, the listener, the viewer. So, when I discovered the 4 agreements, I was, suffice it to say, unimpressed. Picture this. It's 2005, and I've decided to embark on a master's degree in holistic health education at the age of 50. I found one that matched me perfectly, yet was not going to cost an arm and a leg. The program was taught by quality professors who put the students ahead of publishing and who would go to great lengths to support their students. The classes were as experiential as possible and had very little didacticism. Professors were on a first-name basis with their students, and they treated us like the adults we were. But make no mistake, they were professionals, and they took this program quite seriously. Now, somewhere in the middle of my program, I became overwhelmed. I don't remember exactly what was going on at the time, but I felt like I was drowning. I had confessed as much to my advisor, who was eager to help, but at the time, I didn't know what kind of help I needed. So we had this assignment where each of us had to read a different book and present a 15-minute PowerPoint about that book, explaining how one could use it in an adult education, health education program. The idea was we could each gain exposure to 12 books instead of one. The names of the books were written on slips of paper. We each drew one from a hat. I got the 4 Agreements. Now, I'd already read the 4 Agreements at that point, and I had some unflattering opinions of it. Professor, I read this one already. I think I should put mine back and draw again.
All is right with the universe, JJ. This is the one that you're going to present.
That was on Friday. Our presentations were due on Sunday.
Next presentation will be the 4 Agreements presented by JJ.
This book should be called The 4 Bowls of Oatmeal. This book is for absolute simpletons. It's like the 4 steps to tying your shoes. I would recommend this book for children under the age of 5 and adults with learning difficulties. I thought I was so clever. I felt smart. Oh, those were the days. The following week, my professor invited me to their home for a cup of tea.
So how do you feel about your presentation last Sunday, JJ?
Great. I stalled extra unnecessary reading for my classmates.
You do realize you were given a gift, right?
What do you mean?
Well, you said that you were overwhelmed, and you picked a book that you had already read. PowerPoint must have taken you, what, 15 minutes? JJ, I don't know if you realize this, but your classmates, they look up to you. They listen to you. And there may have been one, maybe several, that could have really benefited from that book. And now they're not going to read it because you told them it was trash.
He was right, of course. It was then that I made an agreement with myself. I will be gracious and grateful for acts of kindness and mercy from the universe. Then again, how could I be grateful for the blessings I could not see? I was born to parents with nearly pathological paranoia. I was taught that no one would move stones out of my way just because I was intent on doing good. I was told, in fact, that people would throw stones in my way. My father believed people were out to get him, and my mother believed I would die by gunshot from someone out to get me. As a result, I grew up with a very low sense of safety and security. Even when I know I'm safe, even when I know I'm safe, it makes it difficult to see the gifts being set before me. As an adult, I've come to realize this is not a great way to live. It frustrates connection and nurtures isolation. I spend so much of my workday helping others to connect with reality, their selves, their family, their values, their passion, their inner and outer world. Much of what I do as a counselor is modeling this kind of connection. In order to do this, I've made an agreement to Shiva Drishti. That's a Hindu expression. It means see the good, see the gold, see the God. In each client, I see their good. I see their gold. I see God inside of them. And there's so many people who need this, so many people. I'm left asking myself, am I really making a difference? I had my first therapeutic intervention when I was 18 months old. My father took me to a psychiatrist to find out why I was pooping in his shoes. The doctor told Dad he could consider it hostility or a gift. I think I was practicing my aim. Since then, I have been in counseling with almost no break in continuity. My problems aren't huge. I like to talk. I no longer poop in shoes for the most part. I kind of fell into my career as a counselor. This was after stints in computer programming, fitness training, teaching yoga, teaching English as a second language, and coordinating volunteers for St. Mary's Hospice. I was drawn to working with those struggling with substance abuse disorders, being the daughter of an alcoholic and an addict myself. But I am just one person. I can only do so much. And for every person I help, the more aware I become of how many people I cannot help. And an old familiar feeling of helplessness started to creep in. Maybe this was not my true calling. Yeah. What are you doing?
These starfish are stuck on the beach. I'm putting them back in the ocean.
Well, you're going to be chucking starfish for a long time. There's going to be hundreds, thousands of these things. Why don't you go do something that makes a difference?
I made a difference to that one.
That's when I made this agreement. Throw a starfish back into the ocean. And I do, with each client I sit with. I do so with each intern I take on, imparting whatever wisdom, experience, and hope I have to offer. I've worked with over a dozen counselors in training and another dozen or so yoga therapists. If I live long enough, I should be able to get at least a dozen more future counselors up and running. A few dozen people may not mean much to the world, but to those I do help, it could mean the world. At least to those who are ready to be helped, who are ready to help themselves, and be the good they want to see in the world. The other day, my wife and I were driving between our old house and our new one. when we passed a lemonade stand.
Another lemonade stand.
Another lemonade stand. And much to my wife's chagrin, I signaled and pulled over.
JJ, we're gonna be late.
Do you want to buy some lemonade? We also got watermelon.
I will take a slice, 2 slices, one for me and one for my wife, please. Thank you. I got lucky that time. My word, it was the tastiest, sweetest, wateriest watermelon of the season. So good, but honestly, I would have bought the lemonade. One for me and one for my wife. I don't even like lemonade. Never have. Too sour. But it's not really about that. Okay. The only thing I wish I had done differently is to have tipped the mom standing with the kid next time. But here's the thing. I feel good about putting my money where my mouth is. I like to notice children doing something good and underline it. I want them to know someone supports them and their dreams. I want to help shape the presidents of tomorrow. For this reason, I've made an agreement with myself to stop at lemonade stands. And it's not just kids. You know, the need for support and encouragement, it's not something people grow out of. But these kids. Look, I do a lot of complaining about kids these days, just like the generations before me. Millennials, Zoomers, and Alphas, they're going to run this world someday. Some already are. And kids in general mostly scare me. I suppose like I used to scare my elders, still do. And it will happen to you, if it hasn't already. But I'm reassured when I look back at my growth. I can look back on me from the past with compassion, seeing now what I could not see then. Like the importance of being grateful for the kindness and mercy of the universe. The importance of seeing the good and the gold and the God in folks. The importance of throwing starfish back in the ocean. And the importance of stopping at lemonade stands. I can see now the value in simplifying big ideas, condensing them into lists. And I can see how much Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements has to offer. I just had to find my 4 agreements before I could. When you came in this morning, each of you should have obtained a little notepad. This is for you to write down your own 4 agreements. I invite you to write your first one now. You can always change it later. Maybe your first one will be one of Ruiz. Maybe it'll be one of mine. Maybe yours will be unique to you. After our service today, you're invited to discuss as a group what you came up with, and if you're able and inclined, please join me in the front of the group room, in the great room. Little of my work life just came in. Front of the great room. And those on Zoom, you'll have time in your breakout rooms to discuss this if you'd like to amongst yourselves. Thank you for being a part of our day today.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being part of the garden. I hope you have found meaning in our service today. For future programming, of course, is to make sure that you get our email. And if you're new here and have not signed up, you can certainly contact any of us and fill out the online card, which is, of course, there for you to fill out. Share our link with folks who feel isolated and may need connection. And one would hope that this service has done that for you and for others as well. There are some other announcements. One is our religious education activities, which will have a full program in the fall, either with a September or October opening. And the second is most important. It's from our spring auction. And there are some seats left for some of the activities. And there are leftover activities from the spring auction. And you will find that in your email, and then find the connection to bid on those. Please, we want to get those filled. Are there any other announcements from the congregation that should know about? Well, if not, thank you.
I love our choir, and I love us. So, you know, there's a saying in AA with which I'm very familiar, and it's take what has meaning for you and leave the rest. So I hope you will do that today. And when you leave here today, please leave with a sense of profound happiness and joy in just being alive. Because if you're above ground, you're still doing something right. So thank you for being here with us today. And let us go out into the world, make and keep our agreements, whatever they may be. Amen.